Hey guys, welcome back to Pro Business Talk. I got a new one for you today. And this video is a little different for me. I edited it, re-edited it, and then deleted all of it. The reason I did that is because I try to make my videos about other people. In this video, it became a two-way conversation between Calvin and I. And there's a lot of information that is useful, but it's not just about Calvin. There's a lot of information about me on there, which is fine. I'm glad to share. But it's definitely a different video. It's very informative and very cool. We get real, we get raw. So join us as Calvin and I embark on this awesome conversation. And hopefully it helps you in your business and in your thoughts. All right, on to the video. So I've had a business consultant for 7 years.
Okay.
He was top 5 in the nation, 2 of which in the Northwest, and he took over the Portland Trailblazers account. Cool. He ended up passing away of COVID, but he met with me every morning from 7 to 8 or sometimes 7 to 10, 5 days a week for 7 years.
How did you meet him?
Luck of the draw. So I was friends with his neighbor. I started my landscape business, and then he was one of my first accounts. Anyways, he saw me go from that to get a bigger truck to label it up, and he goes, "So what's your plans?" And he kind of played that card of like curious, and then he goes, "You know what? I can help you with that." And
wow.
Long story short, we became really good friends. It wasn't all about business either, but he is probably one of the most spiritual men that I've ever met. Not only did he help me with my business, he helped me as I was recouping from my divorce, and I mean, we just became great friends. And then he passed away of COVID.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Not of COVID itself, but he had blood clots in his lungs from the treatment.
Oh man.
So it was getting ready to get out of the hospital, and the next day he was no longer with us. But I've always loved business, and so starting this new adventure, Pro Business Talk, is for me, it is like a dream come true.
That's awesome. And you're going to interview people in business and kind of share like entrepreneurship?
There's a lot of guys that interview the guys that quote made it, right?
Yeah.
I want to interview everybody because there's a lot of struggling businesses out there that I think we can learn a lot more from as well. And nobody really brings that side. And I'm going to hit the streets. Like I'm going to start, going to these small businesses and I'm going to, I'll just walk in. I've done door-to-door sales and all that. So it doesn't really faze me to go, talk to these people. But I think that we can learn so much from the guys that have made it, but also from the guys that are either just starting or struggling.
When you're talking about people who've made it, there are a lot of business people that have made it and they don't know why, but they won't say that.
Right.
They will tell you all the reasons that they succeeded, and you can do all the same things and not succeed because sometimes success and business is like riding a wave.
Right.
And they just happen to be the one that was up on their surfboard at the right time, and they caught a wave, and they think it was all of their technique, and they think it was all of their training and everything. But there were 20 guys that could have caught that wave. They were just in the wrong position at the wrong time and just didn't hit the wave right. So yeah, I mean, I like what you're saying because you can learn a lot from people who have caught a wave. Yep. You can also learn a lot from people who didn't catch a wave, right? And saw other people catch a wave.
Right. It's funny you mentioned that. So the guy that I just coated his truck, I talk with my hands.
You're allowed. They're sturdy.
But that black truck that I just coated, concrete company.
Okay.
He is one of those guys that doesn't know what he's doing, but just paid cash for a $1.4 million building. I can't say he doesn't know what he's doing as far as concrete goes. He knows
he knows
everything.
the concrete, but business, he caught a wave.
Right. And now he's at the point in business where he's either got to scale back and keep it simple, or he's got to train and scale up. So he's got about 20 employees, and he says, look, I'm having to go back. The last 6 months has been horrible. I'm having to go back to almost every job and redo things. And so I talked to him. I go, well, what do you have in place to prevent that? Like, how do you obviously can't be at every job site. So he's working in the business, not on the business. And so I talked to him about that. I'm like, well, why are you trying to be everywhere? Why don't you have somebody that you train? I told him an experience I had when I did my landscape business where same thing. I was going back to every job. I had 4 employees and I had to go back behind them all and kind of wipe their rear end, so to speak.
Yeah, fix everything they'd done wrong.
Right. And I didn't know how to fix it. And then my business consultant says, hey, he goes, why aren't you training? And I go, well,
I don't have time for training.
Well, that's what I told him. I go, and it's too expensive. I go, 4 guys for an hour plus every Monday. And on top of that, I couldn't see the outcome.
You could only see the cost of the actual training, not what the lack of training was costing you.
Right. But I was also very new to business. I can't say really new, but I didn't have the business background at the time. So I couldn't put the dots together. Long story short, we started training, and the next month I had 1 callback, and then the months after that I had 0 callbacks, and their productivity got better. 4 to 5 hours a week of the guys training, because 4 guys, 1 hour, whatever it was, it paid off in dividends. So at that point, I became the 5th wheel, right?
Yeah.
Which is a good place to be.
Yeah. It reminds me of the classic book, The E-Myth,
Right.
which I agree with a lot of things in there, and I disagree with a lot of things in there. But I love this concept that most people are not natural-born entrepreneurs. Most people in entrepreneurship had an entrepreneurial seizure, he says. Like one day you were, cleaning carpets for your boss, and you're like, I know everything there is to know about carpet cleaning. Why am I not the boss? And so you said, I'm going to start my own carpet cleaning business. Well, you're not an entrepreneur. You're actually a technician.
Yep.
And you're a technician who went into business as an entrepreneur, but you're not a natural entrepreneur. In fact, very few people are natural-born entrepreneurs.
Right.
They say somewhere around 2 to 5% or something like that are natural-born entrepreneurs, and everyone else in entrepreneurship just had this entrepreneurial seizure. And so you're like, oh, you go into business, you start cleaning carpets, and then you realize, oh my gosh, there's so much more to this. I have employees, and I can't figure out how to get things done the way I want. And sometimes people go back, they stay either, one person, some people call it a one man shop, one person doing the carpet cleaning or whatever the skill of the trade is, a lawyer, a doctor, a dentist, a carpet cleaner, all of these technicians, I call them technicians, people who have a skill, but they don't know how to scale that or how to teach other people to do it.
Right.
And so there's this transition from working in the business to what you said, working on the business. And then what I have been working on in the last couple of years is a transition above that, which is working above the business instead of on the business.
Right. Which E-Myth, I've read that book. I love that book. But like you said, I don't agree with everything in it.
Yeah.
But I do like that you've taken that and gone a step above, where you're going, now I'm working above the business. So you're essentially looking at it from the top down.
First, I taught people how to work in the business with me. Then I taught people how to work on the business with me. And now I'm above helping them to work on the business from above.
It's funny you mentioned carpet cleaning. Did you know my first business was a carpet cleaning business?
No, I didn't know that. Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's a good business, honestly.
But my dad told me, don't do it, go get a job, you're going to fail.
Oh, yeah.
And it lit a fire under me. And I don't think, to his credit, I don't think he realized, this was coming from a guy that started a car lot by borrowing people's titles and getting a loan, and then fed our family. We had boat, and
So he had taken major risk himself.
Right. And then to tell your kid, don't do it, go get a job, you're going to fail. Now, looking back, it made me mad. I was so irate. But it lit a fire under me. And I went out and made it $80,000 in like 6 months. And this was 20 years ago.
For most of us, the best motivation is someone telling us we can't do something. It's way more motivating than someone telling us that we can. I'm the same way. Don't tell me I can't do something. Don't tell me I can't do something.
I actually encourage people to tell me not to do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, watch this.
Yeah. It's the ultimate motivation for many of us.
It is. And some wall up, though. Some, when they're told that, they wall up and they believe it. And that's the sad part.
That's why I say for some of us. It's not for everybody, of course.
Right. You've got to rise above so much in regards to that thing, because if you don't use it as fuel, it will literally break you.
The very thing that makes diamonds is pressure, but breaks most stones, right?
Right. I do really well when my back's against the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to admit that, like, put a little pressure on me, and then I'm gonna just.
You're like, I'm not necessarily asking for it unless I need it, but
right. But when that pressure's there, I actually thrive. How do I rise above it? But the carpet cleaning thing is funny. You mentioned the entrepreneur. So I have wanted to be an entrepreneur my entire life.
Like, where did it start? Like, if you could point to the first thing that you did that was entrepreneurial, like what? Man,
I used to pick my neighbor's flowers when I was 5 and sell them back to them, and I didn't know. I didn't even know it was wrong. And they would pay me.
They probably
money.
bought them because they thought that you were so cute.
That's exactly why.
Yeah.
They would pay me, even though they would watch me pick their flowers. So my mom found out. The neighbors told her, and so that was at 5. And so my mom started growing flowers that I could sell. Then by 8, I had 3 paper outs. I delivered 150 papers on my bike.
Wow.
By 11, I was working at the car lot. By 14, I got my first real job. So I mean, I've always been.
What was the driver behind that? Was it that you wanted to make money? Was it like, because when I was a kid, I really wanted to make money. Like, I was trying to figure out ways to make money.
So that's a good question. I think at the time it was money motivated, but I also had a lot of fun. So even though I was picking the neighbor's, I remember it clearly.
Yeah.
And even though I was picking the neighbor's flowers and selling them back to it was fun for me.
Yeah.
You know, delivering papers, and I remember delivering papers in high winds and rain in the Oregon coast, and I'd have to come home from school, bag up all my 150 papers, have 75 papers on my handlebars. I'm 8. I was not even 100 pounds.
Yeah.
And I'm riding, getting chased by dogs and everything else that goes along with it.
It's like a video game.
Right. Yeah. So I guess my entrepreneurial spirit went way back. Fast forward to when I started to clean carpets. I was the technician, like you had just talked about. And I was so naive. I thought everyone was just going to hire me. And so I didn't realize that there is this other side to business. I thought, well, so how I got into it, let me give you some background there. The guy I worked for owed me $1,000 and didn't pay me. 3 months went by, I had a brand new baby at home, and I was making money detailing cars on the side because I'm like, oh, just pay me when you can. I was just trying to be nice. Granted, at the time, I was just a monster of a guy. I benched 350. I worked out all the time. So, and I have 3 brothers, so I wasn't afraid of confrontation.
Yeah.
And so after 3 months, I went and repoed equipment from his van. I called him up, and I thought, man, I'm expecting a fight, but I was kind of like mentally ready, right?
Yeah.
But I called him up afterwards, and I didn't know that this was illegal at the time. You can't technically go do that.
Right.
So I just thought, well, you know what? He owes me money. I'm just going to go
take something of his that's worth money.
Right. I kept the key to his van, and so I called him up after I did it. I said, hey, you owe me $1,000. 3 months have gone by. Like, I just went and took this, and this. I told him exactly. I was trying to be honest. I didn't know the right ways to go about any of it because I was 22. And to my surprise, he goes, oh, that's great. I didn't have the money. I go, look, if you could just write me a check for a couple $100 and let's call it a day. And he's like, yeah, no problem. And I'm like, that went way better than I ever anticipated. So now I have this equipment. I bought a Ford Aerostar van for like $1,500. I had 20 business cards. I had no more money. I had 20 business cards.
So these 20 business cards have got to make me some money.
Right. And I had like a quarter tank of gas, which in an Aerostar is not a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So spent every dollar I had. I got a baby at home that was brand new, 3 months, 4 months, whatever it was. I go into my first account. This is where the technician versus business guy kind of comes into play. I knew how to do everything about it with the carpets. And so I go into my first account, happens to be the Tides Motel that I landed 6 months later, go figure. But I walk in and the guy was on the phone and he gets off the phone. I had one of my 20 business cards and I just thought he was just going to hire me right off the bat. I had no real pitch, no practice, and I felt so dumb. There's times in our lives where that are very memorable. You're like, oh my gosh. And now I don't really say that I feel dumb. When I make a mistake, I just laugh about it. I don't really care. I'm like, oh, that was a dumb move, but I don't really call myself dumb. At the time I walked in and the guy gets off the phone and he goes, hey, can I help you? I go, yeah, I just started a carpet cleaning business. I just wanted to drop off a card and see if you guys need any carpets cleaned. And I was trying to be as positive and upbeat as possible. And there's nothing wrong with, I would say, that approach. Sure. But then he takes the card. This is like something you'd see in a movie, right? Okay. He takes the card and he slides it over the counter back at me. And he goes, yeah, I already got somebody. And he pushes the card back. Sure. And I looked at him I literally left there hitting my head. So like just going, oh, you idiot. And I took the card and I slid it back. And like I said, this is like something you see in a movie. Yeah. And I go, yeah, but I clean carpets. And after I said that, I'm like, oh my gosh.
But he has a guy who cleans carpets.
Right.
Yeah, but I actually clean carpets.
Yeah. So he takes the card and he's like, okay, I'll just take this and put it in. I'm like, okay, thanks. And I leave there and I'm going, oh, idiot. like what did you? So I realized at that moment, that's when I read E-Myth. That's when I read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I read them all within like a week. And then 7 Habits, I'm the guy that took the workbook and completed the entire workbook because I knew if I wrote it down, it would help me retain it.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, well, if you're ever unhappy with their service or you ever have an emergency, give me a call, which would have been a better rebuttal.
Anything
It's
better than I clean carpets.
Yeah, I clean carpets. Here's my. Oh,
You already
okay.
said that.
Yeah. And 6 months later, to their credit, they called me, and within that 6 months, I had booked 110 vacation homes and 5 hotels. Was like, crap, I've only got 19 more business cards, right? And so I had to figure this out and kick things into overdrive.
Yeah.
I went and borrowed $20, bought those books that I could
Yeah.
read.
Have you ever read Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini?
I haven't. I've heard of
It's
that.
a really
book,
good one.
Is
But
it?
you're reminding me of it because there are certain words that have power, and one of them is because. They did this study. Okay, this is really interesting. There's this long line of people standing at the copy machine. This is back in like the 80s,
Yeah.
Long line of people standing at the copy machine. They tried to figure out how to cut in line and get to the front of the line. And they used a whole bunch of different phrases. This was at a school like library back
Yeah.
when copy machine, when they had people waiting in line. And they found that the word because was very powerful. And that if you said because, you could say almost anything afterwards and people would let you cut in line. And you're reminding me of it with your business card.
I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah, they would say, if they said, "Oh, I'm really late and I need to make copies," and people would look at them and be like, "Well, yeah, I mean, I've got a lot to do too. There's a line, but if they said, "Can I cut in right here because whatever they said," if they said it after because. I don't know if it was the justification or what it was, but it was like a trigger in people's mind, and people let them cut, and way, 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 way more. So it's almost like you sliding the card back, well, because I clean carpets. But then 6 months later, they called you, right? Why did they call you?
Yeah.
There is something about persistence, right? But
I never went back. They called me. I was
They
too.
called.
I
Yeah,
was
you
too
were
nervous.
too embarrassed. You're
I
like,
was
I can't
way
go
too
back.
embarrassed.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, but part of entrepreneurship is that you can't just be a technician. You
Right.
now have to be a marketer and an accountant and a tax guy and all these, and and you have to be a specialist in licensing and all the state communication, leadership,
Yep.
coaching, and everything. It's so much more than just doing the task.
Now I look back and I go, okay, what would I have done different? And which I'm sure you reflect
Many
quite
times,
a bit too.
yes.
And I look at it, I go, I don't know that I would change anything because
Me either.
there's things that I would probably do different with the knowledge I have. But as far as changing how I got there, I don't think that I would do that because that specific experience is as clear and as vivid in my mind as my dad telling me, don't do it, go get a job, you're going to fail. Mm-hmm. And so those two things were some of the things that just launched this really cool roller coaster that's really kind of, I call it a roller coaster because it is.
Yeah.
And so I'm just super happy now that I have the knowledge. That's how my brain works is I want to save people from making the mistakes that I did when I was younger because it learned and lit a fire, but it didn't help me in the sense of I lost a lot of time and money making those mistakes. And so with this, let me connect the dots here.
Okay.
With this business and my Think, Motivate, Achieve is how do I help other people? How do I make this valuable for somebody else? And that's my whole goal with that, with my car channel is I'm fine. I am always okay. If I got $10 and a tank of gas and some food on the table, honestly, I'm like the happiest
You're
man.
like, I don't have to have the world.
Right. I don't. And I used to think, I'm going to go into business about money. And I've come full circle. I'm like, I can't say it's the dumbest thing, but it's the wrong way to think about business. Business should be about, okay, how do we provide for our family? How do we provide for others' families? How do we grow and make it about other people? Because then the money just shows up. I know it will be very successful. How cool is it going to be to have people come to you and be like, where they come to you and say, hey, thank you for this opportunity.
I think it's really cool what you're doing because people will think I'm biased because, I believe in entrepreneurship so much. I believe that entrepreneurship, and I'm not the first person to say this, you can look it up, is the noblest of all professions.
Right.
Entrepreneurship is the noblest of all professions. People, especially in today's world, people would think doctors or teachers or what have you are the noblest of professions.
Right.
And they are noble professions. I mean, to teach children and to bring them up and to help them, I mean, isn't that what we do, by the way? But that is a very noble thing. To save someone's life, absolutely noble as a doctor. Mm-hmm. But what entrepreneurs do is the noblest of all professions. And I say that because they create opportunity that feeds many, many mouths, many, many families, gives opportunity to everyone else, and create environments where people can live a happy life where they're providing for their family and have their work family and others. Now, there are many companies that don't think that way and that don't create a good environment for their employees. But you know what? The people leave. In most cases, people won't stay for money. They stay for the person that they work for, their immediate supervisor, or the company, or the mission, or something like that. So they might pass through, but most of the time, if it's not aligned with them in some way, they will leave, with some exceptions, of course. But entrepreneurs, they start out by finding a problem, solving that problem for other people. So right off, you're solving problems for people. You're making their lives better. Whether it's Amazon. You can order something and it's going to show up at your door tomorrow and you don't have to go to the store. And people, look at that and say, wow, this big corporate something is killing all the small businesses and stuff. And yeah, you know what? If you're a small business, find a problem and solve it.
Right.
That's what they did. And the reason they're so big is that they solved a problem, and it was a distribution problem. It wasn't a product problem, it was a distribution problem, right? So entrepreneurship is finding problems and solving them. So people's lives are better already. And then, if you do it right, you have your team and the people around you, and you're solving problem for them. The immediate problem for them is that they need a place where they can work and provide financially for their families. They put food on their table and a house over their head. The reason why hundreds of people have a home and have a food and just celebrated Thanksgiving and had turkey dinner and everything like that. The reason why they were able to do that is because of my companies. I mean, that's probably the highest point of satisfaction for me, in addition to the public that we serve.
Right.
It's such a high point of satisfaction to create this opportunity for them. And so an entrepreneur, in my mind, has to have a vision big enough that everyone else's vision can fit inside of it. Yeah, I go back to entrepreneurship is the noblest of all professions.
That's a cool perspective. And I wish a lot of companies saw it that way, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are only about the dollar. That changes how you treat people. That changes the environment that they work in. And they probably, most of them, blow through employees.
There are some big ones, and some of them that have major social media followings. I'm not going to name names. But for me, it's very bifurcated. There are some that I absolutely love and respect and admire, and there are some that I literally loathe, that are all about the dollar and push. So I agree with you.
It takes a very powerful mind, I would say, to think the way that you operate and the way that you think, in the sense that this is very noble because look at the opportunities I've provided for people. I would say arguably that's probably above everything else. Like you said, I got to make sure my bills are paid. You're like, well, no, I got to make sure their bills are paid. And I would say that that's the difference between somebody that is caring and a true entrepreneur versus all about money. People can argue that all they want.
Sure, they can.
But the bottom line for me is about integrity. It's about people. I can't tell you how many, and you could probably relate, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars I've lost by putting people first. Not necessarily on purpose. It's that, you know what? I can look at it from different angles and I can see their point. And sometimes they don't say anything. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? This mistake was avoidable. It was on me. I didn't train, whatever it would be. Hey, here's an extra $1,000. Thank you for your help. Money is superficial. It only goes so far. But that act of caring locks people in. Yeah. I knew a company in Oregon there that they were a gas station. They paid people $10 to $12 an hour, and they had people there for 20 years.
Yeah.
Because they did provide health insurance, which most jobs don't, and they did give bonuses and stuff, but they just treated them so well that they just stayed. That was kind of an eye-opener for me. I'm going, wait a minute. It's not about the money for these people. It's about they feel like they're a part of something. I would come to the conclusion that everybody wants to be a part of something bigger than themselves. As an entrepreneur, how do we create that?
And you need to know what problem you're solving. For me, my company, so there's two sides to this. One is that I wanted to make sure that they were taken care of. We provided health insurance to our team before I had the money to buy a house. I was renting.
Oh wow!
But we were providing health insurance before I had enough money to purchase a house.
That's incredible. That's awesome.
Because we had to take care of those people. But what I wanted to say about the people though is this: that I have put a lot of money into, we have some commissioned salespeople in our company, many actually, hundreds of commissioned salespeople. And I wanted to always make sure that if there was ever a mistake, it was in their favor. And there were times when my controller would say, Calvin, you've already overpaid them. And I'm like, yes, but on this, maybe I've overpaid them over here, but on this particular deal or whatever it was, we are going to overpay them. We're going to make sure that we make it right here. And we have always sided on the side of overpaying. But what I want to say to this is, you don't do that with the wrong people.
Right.
Because if you do that with the wrong people, it actually works against you. And I've had advantage takers. And so you have to be very careful and selective, and you have to be quick to remove people that are bad. You can have an incredible culture. At one point we had someone come and they said, man, these people, they're crazy. They think this is Disneyland. This is not how the world works.
Oh, that's rough.
And we've had people like that who saw what we were doing and said, this is, all this too good to be true. What's happening behind the scenes? This is the Wizard of Oz. This is Disneyland. What's happening? And there's something wrong here. If they don't fit, don't keep them. Mm-hmm. Make sure that the people that they're competent, that they work hard, that they have skills and abilities. It doesn't have to be the ability for what you're doing. It can be that they just have the raw materials, but they have to have the work ethic. They have to be willing. They have to be willing to buy into the culture and what you're doing. And if they're not, then get rid of them fast, because it can really spoil things very quickly. They say, a rotten apple can spoil a bunch, and it really can. So you have to keep an eye on it. Part of protecting the culture and the family that you've built is keeping wolves out. Right. And unfortunately, there are a lot of wolves, and we have come across that over the years and had to. I'd sometimes have been fooled by wolves in sheep's clothing that have come in among the flock and have sown discontent and things like that, and it will happen from time to time. But I've taken a lot of my cues from Tony Hsieh, who I really looked up to, and his life was an incredible pattern for me, and also a very sad ending. But Tony Hsieh was the founder of Zappos, and we're a Las Vegas-based company. Zappos was based in Las Vegas. Well, they moved to Las Vegas. They actually took over the city. You can see it right back over here. The city hall. City Hall vacated to get Zappos to move to Las Vegas, and then they built a new city hall. They were so excited that Zappos would come to downtown. And Tony Hsieh did so much for the city of Las Vegas. He revitalized the downtown. He funded a lot of things that happen in downtown. And downtown Las Vegas is this thriving, up and coming area, and a lot of it has to do, or had it start, with Tony Hsieh. The story of Tony Hsieh may sound very familiar to you. It was very familiar to me. I read his book, Delivering Happiness, and it reminded me of my childhood. He talked about the Boys Life magazine. Remember Boys Life?
Oh, yeah.
When you were a Boy Scout, the Scout magazine? Yep. And in the back, there would be all of those things like sell greeting cards to your neighbors and all these things. And he went and he sold greeting cards, and he tried to build the hover machine. Remember the hover machine you could build supposedly out of a vacuum cleaner? Yep. Oh, man, it was my dream to buy one of those. I never had enough money, but it was my dream to try to build this hovercraft out of a vacuum cleaner.
We should try it again.
We should do it now.
I can weld, man. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's build this hovercraft I've always wanted. So, I was just imagining myself, hovering over the water and everything. I was like, this is going to be amazing. Well, I sold greeting cards out of Boys Life because I wanted to make money, and sold them to my neighbors and things. And that was where I got my first start going door to door at 9 years old, as a Cub Scout or something. Well, he did that, and then he started his first company. They made quite a bit of money. It was a tech company, and he realized within a few years that he hated going to work. He absolutely hated it. And it was the worst place to work. He owned it and hated it. When he sold, he said, I'm going to start another company. And I don't care if we're selling shoes, which is what Zappos sold.
Right.
I don't care if we're selling shoes or what we're selling or what we're doing. I don't care. It's just going to be a great place to work. And I want to enjoy going to work. And then he built Zappos. And they put so much effort and time into culture, core values, all of the things. And he would communicate directly, to the entire team at times, because he was so obsessed with culture. What's crazy about this whole story is that he built this incredible culture at Zappos and if you read the book, it teaches a lot about creating culture and core values and things like that. But then ultimately he was alone, and he died alone.
Oh, that's tough.
It is really tough. And what he was able to do for the culture and the team, he was never able to do for himself personally. He had poured everything into that, but it was to fill a void in himself that I'm speaking my interpretation of things, and Tony Hsieh, I hope you're doing well. Appreciate your family, and they're still great people. So this could hurt a little bit, but I think that he never filled the void for himself. And so I look to him as a great example of what he built in a team. But also, we have to fill the void for ourselves and in our personal lives and through personal relationships, which he never was able to fill. But Tony Hsieh is a great example of doing it one time and having great success and realizing that was no fun. Mm-hmm. I want to have fun. I look up to people who can solve a problem, have a great time doing it, build a team around them. That's what I'm looking for. Joe Polish of Genius Network, who I also admire, and I participate in Genius Network, he always says it needs to be easy, lucrative, and fun. He calls it ELF. He says an ELF business is easy, lucrative, and fun. And ELF relationships are easy, lucrative, and fun. And if it's not one of those, if it's not easy, if it's not fun, if it's not lucrative, it needs to match. It needs to strike all of those different parts to be a great business and a great business relationship.
On that same note, I got two things there. There's what you talked about earlier, boss versus employee. A bad apple becomes boss versus employee, and they can turn the whole team, just to add a little bit to that, they can turn the whole team against the boss. And the boss is not your enemy. The boss is there as the coach to make sure that we're successful as a team. Just like a football coach, a basketball coach, baseball, whatever, they're there to put the best players in the best spots. And then they're also, the weight that they carry is just sometimes unimaginable. But then the other side of that is, I call it the Robin Williams effect, where Robin Williams, the actor, was a phenomenal guy. He would go to hospitals and make people laugh, and like, you just picture him all over the place, just this funny guy, right? Very good, clean humor. He ended up committing suicide because, like you said, he didn't fill that void within himself. I think it's very interesting that I don't think I'm ever going to know everything about business, but as I get older and start putting more and more pieces together, it's a very well-rounded puzzle. Working on yourself is just as important or more important than making sure everybody else is okay.
Entrepreneurs have a tendency to give and give and give and give and give until they kill themselves.
Right.
Like literally kill themselves. Sometimes they're trying to fill a void, and sometimes they are workaholics. Many have addiction. Many are addicted to alcohol, drugs, sex. I can speak to that myself. You have to be a little bit obsessive compulsive or whatever to drive a business to success. And oftentimes you are trying to fill a void inside. I've known entrepreneurs, many entrepreneurs, that will give everything of themselves 7 days a week. They never take a break. And eventually they draw from an empty well. And so you have to take care of yourself. You have to have something to give in order to give. And, there are stages in business where you are putting everything in. And where there were times when, for me, it was everything I had. I couldn't even count the hours because I was everything. I was the top salesperson. I was the marketer. I was the decision maker. I was the one who paid the commissions and did all the accounting and balancing of all the books. I was the one who did all the contracting and making sure that the agents had the contracts that they need. I was customer service, and I was agent service, and I was the agent manager and the customer service manager and everything, right? I was everything. And that took everything I had. But if it stays like that forever, you will kill yourself. You have to put systems and process in place. And then when you do, you have to fill your tank. It's okay to take time off. It was difficult for me to put that in and to say, okay, I'm going to have days where I do nothing, where I don't check my email. Eventually it led to the point where I had an assistant who was telling me if there was something important in my email, and I never read my email. If I can avoid it in 100%, then I do.
Yeah. How cool is that, though?
Amazing. But you've got to fill your own well because you cannot draw from an empty well.
I don't know. When I got married, I was told to practice the pause. Have you heard of that?
I love that, yeah.
So there's times where I'm not the best at it. It's because the way my brain works, I have to say what I need to say, get it out so I can be over it. Yeah. And Aaron and I don't really fight, but like all marriages, we bicker a little bit. And honestly, it's very minimal. And mostly because Aaron is super patient and kind and loving. And,
I know Aaron, so I know that's true.
So, and to her credit, she is just awesome. But when you practice the pause, it's more so than just a marriage. And so for those that are listening that don't know what that is, it's if there's confrontation of any kind, whether it's minimal or major.
This is different than the friends break, by the way.
Right.
We're on a break.
Right. Yeah. Little kids, you have to separate them and grab them by the collar and go, you sit here, you call their parents, whatever. The pause, what it does is it allows you to clear your head and it allows you to think better. And so in a relationship status, that takes something that's very minimal and it keeps it and prevents it from exploding and becoming a major thing. And so when you practice the pause, that's why they say that is, hey, this is something that's very helpful in marriages, and it's helped me.
Yeah, we can get caught up like in little things, in the minutia and feel like it's so important. And then if you stepped back and paused for a minute and looked at the bigger picture, you would say, actually, this doesn't have any impact. The day that I die, or when I go and meet my maker, or whatever, however you see it, for whoever's listening, however you see it, For me, it's when I meet my maker. For you, it might be the day you die. Will those things matter? Will it really matter?
Right.
If you take a step back and say, whatever it is, the dirty toothbrush or whatever that you were arguing about with your spouse, or in business, right? The thing that you thought was so critical, is it really critical? Sometimes we get really caught up in those little things.
Right. But that's why practicing the pause in business, regroup. So the pause can be 5 minutes. It can be 3 days. It can be 2 months. It doesn't, there's no time frame on a pause. And that's what I like about it is a lot of times when I'm stuck on progression or a problem or something, I just kind of wait. I'm proactive. Pausing doesn't mean do nothing necessarily, but it does mean take the time, clear your mind, and usually that's when my answers come.
Yeah. So I want to put some color on this from a good friend of mine, Jason Campbell, who is an amazing individual. He's kind of he's a spiritualist, spiritual teacher. He teaches people breath work. He also is a composer and has composed over 100 albums of meditation and piano music and things like that. Really cool guy. And I was on a hike with him one time, and we were talking about this idea that we have epiphanies. I love what he said, so I want to share it here. So many times we have a problem, and we're trying to solve it. And we're thinking and racking our brain, and we're trying to figure out how to solve a problem, whether it's business, personal, whatever it is. And he says, sometimes have you ever felt like the answer just comes just out of thin air? All of a sudden we have this epiphany, this idea, oh my gosh, that's the answer. It comes, people can say it comes from different places. So some people say it came from your subconscious mind. Mm-hmm. Some people said that it comes through, some spiritual way, that it comes through some energy. Some people talk about wavelengths. Some people talk about God. But this idea comes to you, and you all of a sudden receive this idea, or you had this idea wherever it was, and it came out of thin air. And people say all the time, I don't know, it's just out of thin air. And as we talked about this, he said, so the key, if all of these great ideas come out of thin air, come out of nothing, then the key is to try to get closer and closer to nothing, to clear your mind away from all the things that are distracting you, and from receiving whatever that receptor is, whether it's an antenna in your brain, or whether it is your subconscious mind that's like stewing on things and coming up with the answer and calculating. I personally believe that there is so much more than what is visible. Mm-hmm. If you've ever been in a car and all of a sudden you feel someone looking at you, and you turn and look at the other car and they're staring at you, and then they look away, like right. You felt something. Right. There's something more than matter, right? There's a spiritual or some other thing. And so these ideas, sometimes the idea or the answer that you need can come out of thin air, but you are too busy to hear it. And so the pause, or whatever it is, it's, the meditation time, the pause, the break from the emails, the break from social media, just allowing yourself to exist in a moment instead of continually keeping your mind running, allows you sometimes to receive that answer out of nowhere. And usually an answer doesn't come when you need it. It comes after a little bit of time. The idea, though, behind it is that everything is connected, and that there will be an answer that comes to you. And whether you believe in that, or you just believe in your subconscious, or you believe in God and spiritual things, everyone is saying the same thing, mm-hmm. that idea will come to you if you give yourself the pause, if you allow yourself reflection and time. Some people, they'll write things down at night. They'll start with a gratitude journal. Right. And then write down one thing. Ben Hardy talks about this in his books. Start with a gratitude journal, write down 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for the day, and then write down one thing or one issue that you try to solve, and then go to sleep. Closer you can get to nothing, then the closer you can be to having that epiphany. And it's not to say that you don't have to, you can't sit in a stream and meditate all day every day, right? Right. You have to take action too. But we are so often all about action, and we need that quiet. We need an opportunity to receive the answer that we've been seeking, and to allow it to happen and to process. And that's part of taking the break, taking the pause, taking the sabbatical, taking the day off, and just allowing your mind to be free from constantly trying to figure things out. Whatever it is that was keeping us constantly distracted, we need to be free from that sometimes. What is cool, though, is you learn to do this early on in business. You will have a skill set that will help you for the rest of your life and really keep you healthy. Of all the skills to learn, I would say that that's up there at the top, because clarity of thought allows you to make better decisions.
clarity of thought and release of tension or pausing allows you to really focus on what's important, focus on the situations and the solutions. Then you hear that little voice that comes into your head with the answers. And I would say if there was one skill set for an entrepreneur to master, it would be something along those lines.